Thank you for joining us. It's another Saturday. It's a wonderful, wonderful day. And of course, I hope you're keeping safe and doing the best that you can. Anything you cannot do is totally out of your control. Welcome to Daybreak Extra on Trust Television. My name is Martia Umar. And of course, I'm not alone.
Yes, indeed. Good morning, Martia. It feels good to have you on the show as usual.
It's
How
amazing.
was your week?
Oh gosh, my week was full of so many activities.
Of course, as expected.
You know, you're thinking of one thing,
and then something comes up.
It's just a lot.
Expected.
You know, trying to get into whatever is going on and trying to live every day as it comes. It's a lot.
Well, you know, these are actually the kind of things that grooms a person. You know, that makes you, push your limit. Right?
I think, yeah, I think you just get stronger by the day by all of the news and events that turn out.
Exactly. Yeah, but besides that, the Hamatan is here, and it's not too cold in Abuja, but you could actually see the dust everywhere. So it's advisable for you to actually wear a face mask, because it's like flu season has actually come all over again. A lot of people who had flu a few months ago, are having a reoccurrence, and you need to, find ways to actually take care of yourself. Keep yourself warm, very, very important, and always cover your nose, just so you don't have another flu, all thanks to dust.
Aside that, one thing you cannot take away from the Hamatan in Abuja is the fact that you are always dehydrated. So I advise a lot of people to take a lot of water. You can take water everywhere, so you keep yourself hydrated at all times. It's very important.
All right, well, today on the show, we'll be discussing some very, very interesting topics. One has to do with relationship, and who doesn't love to talk about relationship? And then
maybe I don't. Maybe I don't.
And then we have an author. Yes, we have an author in the studio. We'll have an author in the studio as well. But before we move into, the show proper, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130.
A Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Really, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
That's great.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, welcome back and thanks for staying with us. This is Daybreak Extra on Trust TV, and it's time for the newspaper review. Right about now, we will taking a look at the front pages of the major dailies for today. We'll start with Daily Trust Saturday, and we have the lead story here that talks about Naisal MD fired over 5.6 billion naira wheat project saga. And we have writers that says how Daily Trust report exposed wrongdoing at agency. He only stepped aside for further investigation, and you can find details of that story on page 4. The cover story here talks about 4 states mum on projects as federal government paid 625 billion naira to 9 oil-rich states. And we have writers that says funds too small to make impact, says Bielsa. Cross River begs for special attention. Monies not embezzled, says Delta. EFCC petitioned as citizens demand accountability. You can find details of that story on page 5 and 30. And on the news, we have Aisha Buhari withdraws case against student critic. On 2023, Dogara, Shagari, others adopt Atiku, reject Tinubu over Muslim tickets. Kwankwaso Obi lack national spread, says you can actually find it on page 4. Still in the news, we have alleged misconduct. NJC probes 15 High Court judges. 2023 still, federal government intensifies arms mop-up. And at the top of the page there, why am biggest actor in the world, says Chinwe Taluago on entertainment. And we have an interview with the Benway widow on page 8 that says, after my husband's death, a relative was asked to inherit me. And these are some of the stories on Daily Trust Saturday. Very interesting stories today, I must say.
Absolutely. Our next stop will be This Day newspaper, as the lead story says, federal government pressures oil-producing states to account for derivation earnings. There are 2 writers attached to the story. One says 625 billion naira disbursed to them in 2 years. The other one says Delta State to Buhari, Okowa not among stealing governors. You can get details of that report. Start reading on the front page and then continue on page 5 in the This Day newspaper. And petrol scarcity lingers. NLC bemoans hardship, rebukes federal government. There's a writer attached to this one. It said black market booms at 400 naira per litre in Lagos and Abuja. Started on the front page, continue reading on page 5 this morning. Then on result transmission, INEC seeks NCC's help in poor network areas. And collection of PVCs commences December 12. If you are waiting to collect your PVCs, you might just want to read further. This one started on the front page and then you continue on page 5 this morning. And the This Day newspaper, Dogara's group adopts Atiku for 2022. If you want to know why, page 8 accommodates that story. And there's a pictorial about a festive season there. And the last story this morning will be taken from the This Day newspaper. Says gunmen attack mosque in Uweli, kidnap imam and injure 11 worshippers. That story is on page 6. Quite disturbing there.
Yeah, it is. All right, so with that, we'll move on to the Guardian newspaper, which is next on our list. And the lead story says, again, Buhari turns heat on governors, clarifies derivation fund controversy. And writers here says, reveals 9 oil-producing states received 625.43 billion naira for 13% derivation subsidy, Shorepy refunds. reassures refunds to oil-producing states will continue. And you can find details of that story on page 2. All right, we have 15 High Court judges face NJC probe over alleged misconduct. Aisha Buhari withdraws case against Aminu as judge cautions parents. We have on 2023, INEC NCC meet Tuesday over e-transmission of results. Metro notes, suspected herdsmen attack Delta Mosque, abduct 3, injure 2. And then we also have woman bursts prostitution ring in Lagos, rescues 7 girls. Details of that can be found on page 2. And on Saturday's special, there's a rising case of contempt. Lawyers knock Buhari officials. And on celebrity, MC Passion says, my sojourn into comedy, MC Passion, my sojourn into comedy is spiritual. And then we also have a Guardian woman saying, as a woman, you must work harder. And this is attributed to Diola at Alade. And these are some of the stories on the Guardian newspaper.
Well, let's take it to the nation this morning, where the First Lady, Aisha Buhari, police discontinued defamation case against varsity students. All right, page 5. That story has been making the rounds throughout the week. Page 5 has that story. Let's get to the lead story this morning. In the Nation newspaper, it says, Okowa Udom Diri Obasaki under fire over federal government refunds. 4 riders attached to the story. The first one says how 9 oil-producing states received 625.4 billion naira in 2 years by federal government, and then 860 billion naira outstanding will be paid, Buhari vows. Another rider says we are over declared receipts and federal government figures validate Edo says commissioner. On analysis, that's a 4 riders said refunds and questions of accountability, and there's a table and stating what each state got and expects. All right, so you get more details of that on page 4 in the Nation's newspaper. And the bottom strip, we have PNID controversy. Of course, it's still lingering. It says $11 billion London trial will expose corruption in Nigeria. That's according to a British lawyer. Page 5 accommodates that story. And let's take a look at this one that says 15 judges on the probe for alleged misconduct. NJC there constitute committees to investigate them. And then the last one this morning in the front of the Nation's newspaper said Wike Otom to Buhari, name governors stealing local government funds. All right, get more details on page 5. It seems page 5 in the Nation has lots of stories you want to take a look this morning. That's pretty much what's in the front page of the date of the Nation this morning.
All right, on Saturday, Vanguard, right here, we have the lead story that talks about notorious terrorist Bello Turji to military, saying, why have you not killed me? He's asking the military that big question. Yeah. Why have you not killed me? You're just provoking me, not ready to end banditry, he says. Writers here say, air raid may compel us to break peace pact with some of our residents. Real enemy of the people is government, and people begin to return to farms after paying 20 million naira levy. Well, that's a very deep story there. Now, at the top of the page there, we have Farouk versus Ahmed, the unending inglorious budget drama. Details on page 21. On 2023, Northern Christian Muslim leaders adopt Atiku, mobilize against APC. And below that story, you have Nigerians to get their PVCs between December 12 and January 22, says INEC. We also have more stories. Aisha Buhari bows, withdraws case against critic Aminu Adamu. Pete Edoche opens up on Yule's second wife, says life before things fall apart. And we have these are some of the stories that you can actually get on a Saturday Vanguard this morning.
All right, so let's move to the Tribune newspaper. Saturday Tribune has the lead story about the PNID scandal. British lawyer tells London court that there is industrial-scale corruption in Nigeria. A writer attached to the story says pre-trial review of $11 billion PNID case holds. Page 4 has more details of this story. And let's take a look at the top of the paper. We have, he was sleeping. I crept into his room and landed my cutlass on his neck. Quite disturbing. That's coming from a 22-year-old Babalawo. Oh, page 8 has that disturbing story. And then pastor jailed 3 years over possession of 2 human hearts in Ondo. Wow. Page 4 has that story. And on page 4 again, we have NLC, TUC demand federal government's action against high fuel price. Page 4 again. And the bottom strip has Aisha Buhari withdraws case against detained undergraduate. Page 4 again has that story. Then Okowa, Wike, Otom challenge Buhari to name governors stealing local government money. That story is on page 7. Also, we have oil producing states got 625.43 billion naira refunds, and that, according to the presidency, page 6 accommodates that story. And on 2023 elections, Northern Christian and Muslim leaders adopt Atiku, plot to abort reconciliation in PDP exposed. Page 4 and 7 has that story. And then gunmen invade mosque, abduct imam, shoot 11 others. That story is on the bottom strip, quite disturbing then. And those are some of the stories we have in front of the Tribune this morning.
All right, with that, we'll go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll take a look at some of these stories. Stick around.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at some of these stories on the newspaper review this morning. And before then, we'll take a look at numbers. Now on numbers, we have the number of pending cases comprising 4,741 civil, 1,392 criminal, 751 morbid appeals in Supreme Court. You know, still there is 6,884. 6,884 cases. That is you know, a huge amount. Now, when will these cases pass through?
You know, it's really, really surprising, and it's not really surprising. You know, it's kind of a mixed reaction when you talk about cases in court and how, you know, justices and
a lot of people seem to think the justice system is slow in Nigeria already.
Yes, a lot of people have that thought, you know, but there's a lot of problem in the judiciary and the judicial sector in Nigeria. You know, we have lots of justices, we have cases, we have lawyers, and we have courts with stockpile of cases to be attended to on a daily basis. And, you know, the numbers are so small, a lot of people do not understand that, you know, these people work round the clock and still not being able to tackle some of these cases. Like you mentioned, there are about
4,741,
you know, civil cases. These are cases that necessarily do not have to go to court. Alternative dispute resolution, that's what we have, ADR. Civil cases are not criminal cases. They're easier than criminal cases. Criminal cases tend to take a lot of time. But you know, when we have all of this piled together and we're not doing what we can, you know, recently some court justices in court were actually are being probed right
15
now.
15 of them.
You know, 15 of them are being probed. So just to tell you that there's a lot of things that goes on in this sector that we do not know about. And it's so important to note that we have a CJN, Justice Kayode Ariwola, who is willing, because in his address when he was swearing in some senior advocates of Nigeria, about 62 of them, he said it will not be business as usual, and he's urging all of this, all of the lawyers, the senior advocates of Nigeria, and the justices not to be used by politicians. They should not be subservient to some of these big names and
to the elites.
you know, of course, and things that happen in the country.
And so this is actually the kind of spirit we need in Nigeria, in every sector, by the way. All right, so the number of working days approved by federal government as paternity leave for federal workers is 14, and you have so many men excited about this.
You know, it's something we should be happy about. Most times when you have a husband and you put to bed, he's at work.
He's nowhere
He's
to help
supposed to be, you know, running around and taking care of some issues. But he has work to attend to. So there's this divided attention, which really does not work for us as women. So federal government approving 14 days, I think it's.
But how many of these men would actually use these days, you know, to help their wives out? Because when you talk about Omuk or a lot of...
I don't think this is for helping out right now. I think it's for running around, getting grocery, getting bills paid, trying to make sure that things are set for naming ceremony. Like Muslim Christians, of course, you know, there's naming ceremony after 7 days of birth. And you know, it's very helpful.
But you know, if you look at it, the same way the mom is usually, you know, overwhelmed or excited about giving birth is the same way the fathers are, because, you know, some of them handle it different ways. Some of them go ahead and, you know, organize parties, they throw parties to celebrate, you know, the childbirth, and some of them are actually overwhelmed as well. So this is actually a good thing, and kudos to the federal government for this. But will the private sector, do you think they would adopt this as well?
I think the private sector might not give up to 14 days, but I'm sure they would give, you know, a reasonable...
I know some private sectors actually give 2 days.
3, I know.
3, right?
3, yeah.
All right, so the number of Trust TV journalists shortlisted for Wale Soyinka Award for investigative reporting alongside 11 from other media outfits are 2. And we're talking about our very own Abdulaziz and Zainab Bala. You know, and I can never get tired of saying this. A big congratulations to them.
Exactly. Yes. And, you know, looking at the perspective they took their, you know, documentary that from involves investigation, you know, into health and into banditry. Those are like 2 things disturbing this country. A wealthy nation is a healthy nation.
Exactly.
And when a country is secure, they tend to move forward. And all of its citizens are, you know, happy going about their business. It brings about development. So big up, congratulations again to our own very Zainab Bala. and Abdulaziz for this wonderful fit. And we're hoping to bring it home.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully. We'll bring both home.
Yes, just one person gets to win in that category.
Oh,
actually.
just one?
Just
okay.
one.
We'll bring it home then. All right, so let's move on to just one more number. The number of culprits federal government convicted in over 11,000 rape cases with 401 fatal, 592 closed and 3,507 open are 33. 33 culprits the federal government convicted for rape.
Oh, that's quite a very small amount compared to
the number on ground, 11,000
cases. You know, one of the cases that take a long time, you know, and a lot of people are like, okay, let's just have justice as soon as. Justice system is slow, and there's a reason for that. We have a lawyer educators about why we have some of these cases slow. Justice system is slow in the sense that investigations need to be carried out, so they do not convict the wrong person or probably send the wrong person to jail. And we've seen cases where people have said that this person raped me, and at the end of the day, you find
it ends up being false.
False. Yeah. But notwithstanding, these cases of rape are something that we should be talking about. It's so not unfair when you perpetrate this act of violence, because this is violence against women and girls. So I think it's something that we should take seriously, and if there's any way they can go about it so we have easy justice and, you know, detriment to people who even think about it, because no is no.
You're talking about violence against women, and on letters, that's the cartoon that you can actually see here. The girl is actually asking her dad or telling her dad that it's the elimination of violence against women week. Any advice for ladies? And the dad says, well, they shouldn't abduct 23-year-olds and beat them up for defamation.
That's really, really dicey, you know, when you look at things like that, you know, what women had to go through in the society, all in the name of, you know, fitting in, trying to get a place, and it's outrageous.
You're talking about women, what women have to go through, you know, in the name of fitting and everything. It reminds me of an interview on page 8 of the Benue widow who says her husband's death, after her husband's death, you know, her relative was asked to inherit her. And, you know, this boils down to, you know, customs and tradition, and whether you like it or not, you know, in Nigeria till date, this particular custom and tradition still happens in some parts of the country.
So when are we going to do away with some archaic and barbaric culture? I know some sections of the law, like the Violence Against Persons Act, actually accommodates some of these things. This is an improvement from the criminal code and the penal code that we have. So I think that nobody can force you to do anything you don't want to do. So people should open their eyes that there are laws that you need to obey in the country, and such cases are just one of them.
And there are laws protecting women as well. Now, she was actually asked, how did you cope with your in-laws during the mourning period? And she said that while she was still in Benin, her mother-in-law did not want her to leave her matrimonial home, and she was citing instances of several women who lost their husbands and were still in the house. So she didn't like the idea, even though she even had, you know, a daughter for, you know, the man. And then she was asked what other things were demanded from her as a widow before the burial. And she said she was asked to declare his assets before his burial. And her parents told her not to argue with them, but tell them everything she knew. And they told her never to struggle with anything about property and, you know, like cars, lands, and all that. And this is what so many women actually
These are
go
harmful
through.
widowhood practices. It's against the law. This is one of them. You still have women being asked to take off everything, their hair, and then have to drink from the water being used to bath the corpse. So these are some of the things that we should amplify our voice against, and let's see how it goes. We keep talking about it, creating awareness and enlightening these women that their rights cannot be trampled on.
Okay, all right. So, let's move on to more of these stories. Now, Aisha Buhari withdraws her case against a student critic. What's your thoughts on this? It's actually funny how, this particular story went from 100 to 0, like real quick, from everybody, being on this student's side to almost everybody withdrawing after, they found one of his previous tweets as well on Deborah's death in Sokoto.
Finding this young man, Adamu, shows that things can work in this country if we want things to work in this country. We have a lot of people going into the Twitter space or any other social media space and just say, okay, this is my phone, I have internet, and I can just throw anything I want.
Yeah.
It's my right because I have freedom of speech.
It's my personal page, so I can do whatever I want.
So I do whatever I want. Initially, when this all started, I wasn't really happy because I felt she was being body shamed, she was being accused. I don't know if he has evidence, I felt really bad because an advocate of respect. You have to respect the elderly in the society. Aside being the first lady, she's older, she's like a mother. She has older children than you have. But when it got complicated in the fact that, he was tortured and all that, then I thought, okay, this is getting out of hand.
Okay, but, it has lots of mixed feelings because some people actually seem to think if you are an elite or if you're in a position of leadership in the country or if you're famous, then you should be open to, these kind of things. Cyberbullying is real and it happens to a lot of celebrities. Do you understand? So, you should be able to you should be open to people criticizing you.
Yeah,
so how you handle it matters. So a lot of people were actually against how she handled this particular situation.
Yes, there's a mixed feeling actually, being at the other side and then being here. We could actually say a lot of things. But
so what do you have to, because
I'm happy it has been withdrawn. He has exams on Monday, remember? He's a final year student of the University of Dusai. So this should serve as detriment to people who feel like they could stay in the comfort of their homes and just type anything on social media.
And what about people who actually underestimate the power of social media? Because if not for social media standing for this boy, we wouldn't have even known what was happening, and people wouldn't have even come out en masse to protest against what has happened to him. But some people still seem to think social media is it should not, it's nowhere, especially when it comes to politics.
I'm happy people were rational about this. We have civil society organizations, we have individuals coming out to speak against this, and I'm happy that he should be out of detention now. They said the case has been withdrawn, but it doesn't seem like he could be out of detention now. But we're happy this is over, and I'm sure he would mind the way he uses his social media spaces now.
All right. So, so sad we can't go any further, but with this, we've come to the end of newspaper review on the show this morning. We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll have our first guest in the studio.
When a situation where you find that a look at this,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130.
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Or really, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
That's great. That's good to see you.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, welcome back and thank you for staying with us. If you just tuned in, you're watching Daybreak Extra on Trust TV, and we have our first guest in the studio. Now, today we'll be talking about the game of, that's chess, by the way, the game of strategy or intelligence. Now, chess is about making strong moves and sticking by them. The central law of chess is to restrict movements of enemy pieces. Now, there are chess move strategies, but there are also strategies that are used away from the board, and it includes many factors from requests to the officials, the request to the opponent, to timeout, to physical preparation, and more. And joining us in the studio, for those of you who do not even understand what the game of chess is all about, because I know a lot of people, don't seem to find that particular game interesting. Joining us in the studio to discuss the game of chess, if it's a strategy or a game of intelligence, is Jaulusi Oluwaseun, an author of the Nigerian chess book in Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba languages. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, all right, thanks.
Okay, so a lot of people, would actually say there's so many things you could actually write about as an author. Why chess? You need to have a really deep relationship with chess to be able to even write about it. So how important is chess to you?
All right. Okay, once again, feel so honored to be here today. All right, so I've been writing in the past since 2016. I've authored 6 different books. Okay. This book made it the 7th book I authored.
Yes.
Why chess? Looking at the potentials of chess, developmental potential of chess, what's writing about, and its developmental potentials has actually been underexplored in this side of the world. That's why I actually chose to write about it. Not only write about it in English language, in Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba languages, knowing fully well that multilingualism and localization of content played a pivotal role in development. Take the history of, the first world countries today, they so much place values in their language, plays role in technological development, and that's how we can actually reach out to the grassroots, in the course of stimulating, sustainable development. So that's actually how it is.
Okay,
so,
the game of chess is more than just an indoor game to you.
Sure.
And growing up, let's say in high school, I saw a lot of people go for chess competition just because I love to travel. I ventured into chess and I was like, okay, this is more than just sports. It just makes you take the fastest decision in the shortest possible time.
Yeah, exactly.
And a friend of mine told me that, it has really changed their way of thinking since they got introduced to chess. How important is chess in decision making? Generally, life matters.
Chess, as it is, entails making the best decision within the chosen period of time. Talking about the topic or the theme of this discourse, of this discussion, like chess, a game of strategy or intelligence. First and foremost, what is strategy? Strategy is just like the action planned on ground to actualize a goal or a target, a long-term goal or a long-term, target. That's strategy. Then intelligence is the mental application of one's intellectual capacity to, actualize those plans. If you look at it, football managers, coaches, most of them play chess. Yeah, there's this similarity between chess game and football. Like, as a chess player, you need to have a winning formation before you even start. Perhaps you want to move your e2 to e4. That's an attacking formation. If you move your e2 to e3, that's kind of defensive, playing as white. If you move your e6 to e7, that's quite defensive as black. So to say, you might not really understand this kind of terminology. Sorry, that's just by the way. So before you make the first move, you need to have your formation. That is the strategy, right? Quite all right. Then talking about the intellectual aspect of it, now the mental application of your, of your abilities is actually the other side of it. So something about chess is just like it's kind of wide and wild, so to say. The fourth chapter of this book, even beyond the chess of a thing, game of a thing, I actually apply chess to explain the concept of architecture. Before this time, people have always have this stereotype about architecture as one of the hardest course in most universities, hardest field of study, but actually apply the concept of chess to break that knowledge barrier. Now, if you understand chess as a child or as an adult, you can understand architecture. You can check the fourth chapter of this book. I treated chess in architecture. Why?
So, well, you're a mechanical engineer. So, did that come from your AutoCAD experience?
Yeah, exactly. I've been using AutoCAD for more than 12 years now, so to say. And then, growing up back then in school, we're exposed to some, civil engineering courses. In the course, we have to make some technical drawings, make some building plans. And I started developing myself. While doing my IT, I learned automated computer-aided design. Now, growing up playing chess, I discovered that, there's something quite similar about architecture and chess of a thing, so to say. Bishop can only move along the diagonal path. That's 45 degrees. Knight can move L-shape in all directions. That's 90 degrees. And you can see king can make this, circular path. Queen can also make a circular path. That's, this is circular profile. And that's all you just need to, that's all you need to be an architect. So if you look at the fourth chapter of this book, I actually, I did something like a case study. I did a building plan, I did elevation view, and I actually used chess moves, rooks move, roof moves along the vertical part and horizontal part. I used all those, move profiles to create this architectural interpretation. Now, breaking it down to the, development mental application of chess. Now, any child that understands the concept of chess can actually excel in any field of study.
Interesting.
Yes.
So a lot of people seem to actually think that, chess players or those who play the game of chess have high IQ?
Yes, it takes being intellectually inclined to play chess. A dull person might not be able to cope with chess. And in the past, I've had a lot of people say, oh, chess is hard, chess is this, chess is that. Like, chess is not hard. Do you know, should I tell you something? Like, I've tutored a lot of people on how to play chess. Some, I spent a day to teach them how to play chess. Some within 2 hours how to play chess. Some weeks. In fact, some kids back then, like 2 years ago, I spent like 3 days to teach all these kids how to play chess. So it depends on your mental ability, your mental capacity, which varies from, you know, humans to humans, like your IQ, intellectual, you know, capacity, so to say. So chess is quite interesting, so to say.
All right, so tell us about your book. You know, when you came out with it, what was the reception like from Nigerians?
So to say.
And why did you decide to, you know, break it and make it in Hausa, Yoruba, in the 3 different languages?
Oh, okay. Like the reception from Nigerians. Yeah. First and foremost, let us talk about book of a thing and this Nigerian perspective. There's this existing mentality that blacks don't read, so to say. So now we need to break that barrier. As you get blacks, you don't like reading books. In fact, most of my friends say, why are you choosing, you know, you've authored 7 books within 7 years. Like, are you sure people are even reading this book? Yeah, some people still read. And let me tell you something. Education is the backbone of development. Go and check. Research-oriented education is actually one of the fastest way to make a country grow. So we need people who will read and write, make research. And if you check, most of all these universities, see their final year projects are being dumped in the basket after, you know, they've defended it. Nobody picks those things up to even go deeper in it. So like, oh, let's develop this idea, let's develop this initiative. That's why you see in this side of the world we're still backward, but in some other developed nations, it's not like that. You understand? So this is a research work, so to say. Now, you ask a question that why do I have to like go further?
Why did you
so like it's outside. I told something here earlier, multilingualism and localization of content plays a pivotal role in development, in educational outreach. So to say, people are gonna appreciate this much more because it's written in their own language. Hausa language, Igbo language, and even beyond the stress of a thing, you can actually use this to like for you know, cultural development, so to say. You know, cultural development, cultural integration. See Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba languages in one book, and English language, which is our unofficial, you know, language in Nigeria. This is Nigeria, so it should be much more appreciated. So to say, you also asked the question that was the reception by Nigerians. They turned out not that.
Encouraging.
It's quite encouraging.
This book is actually for beginners, right?
It's multi-purpose for beginners, for intermediate, and you know, if you want to learn how to play chess, so it's everything here, like you have everything here.
So before this book, you came up with #Blitz100 chess rating system.
Okay.
So what was the motivation for you? You know, something significant must have happened to you for you to come up with all of the books, the rating system. Can you share that with us?
Oh, actually, Honorably's chess rating system is one of the best things I've ever done in my chess exploits. Like, yeah, so to say. You know, I posted something on Twitter. Anybody can be a grandmaster. That's one of the highest, after champion. Grandmaster is one of the highest level you can attain.
So are you a grandmaster?
No, I'm not a grandmaster. Man, I don't know what it takes to be a grandmaster. Perhaps an expert, chess expert. At least, you know, our grandmaster is a big name, so I might not be able to defend that now.
But expert is just before grandmaster, isn't it?
No, like we still have senior master.
Okay.
We have intermediate, professional, expert, master, senior master, then grandmaster. Then after the grandmaster, then we now have the champion. So there are levels to that. So that grandmaster, we might be playing chess. I can call you grandmaster, but don't go and put grandmaster something by any way you want to address me.
You have to defend it.
I can't defend that now. So to say, what's my ELO rating? No, I still have very low ELO rating. No, ELO rating is actually this standard, point system. You understand, to rate the level of chess players. So going back to our previous conversation, you asked me that what motivated me to invent this 100 Blitz chess racing system, and I replied that it's actually one of the best things I've ever done in the course of my chess exploit. Now, initially, okay, we have chess grandmasters, but anybody could be a chess grandmaster, but it takes an extra mile to become an 100 blitzer, for you to play 100 blitz within 24 hours. Do you know what it means? Like, you want to play 100 blitz within 24 hours. And also see Usain Bolt can run short distance. But this Kenyan, athlete is actually one of the best marathon blitzers. So there's a place for Usain Bolt in terms of race. And there's also a place for this Kenyan guy. I think I can't remember that name. Okay. So there's a place for short distance racer, and there's also a place for marathon racer. So in the chess world also, I invented this marathon chess competition. So now the concept, the idea is just like, okay, play 100 blitz game within 24 hours and win 50. I actually did it September 29th. I played 100 blitz matches. People will say, how did you get to do it? Like, seriously. The second time I tried to do it, I fell sick. Like, something crazy.
Okay.
So to say, so that 100 blitz is a chess racing system. So now what I want to do is just like, I want to bring up some other talent from the grassroots. Some people actually, they don't have this capacity to run short distance, but they have this mental capacity to do this long distance competition. So we want to bring out those kind of, I strongly believe in Africa, in US, in UK, all over the continent, we still have, a lot of chess players like that. They have this mental capacity to play 100 blitz within 24 hours. Yeah, so to say.
I could still be one of them. Or I'm too
Sure,
old.
yeah, but it takes extra, it's the extra mile in the game, so to say. So 100 blitz is quite interesting. I'm actually working on it.
I'm actually very, I actually want to know. Now, you've talked about, chess teaching strategy.
Yeah, okay.
Intelligence.
Okay.
And what other things, does chess actually teach?
Okay, now, in the course of writing this book, I invented applied chess science. It's actually a new field of study. First and foremost, let me define this applied chess science. It's the practical application of chess game beyond its usual competitive, facet. Initially, okay, people learn how to play chess, they go for competitions, or you win this award, you're given some money. That's all we know about chess of a thing in the past. But now I'm just trying to break that barrier. Now, do you know that chess explains the concept of law? Chess explains the concept of sociology, even forex. You know when to pull out, you know when to, make more advances. Chess explains all those concepts. Now I've used chess to explain the concept of architecture in this. As you can see, that's applied chess science, applying the theoretical, concept of chess for practical purpose, for developmental purpose, for economic purpose.
So it's a unification now.
So yeah,
science.
Okay, yeah. So in this book, the first line about the book, chess is the unification of art and science. You understand? A universal language widely spoken far and near by the young and the old. Its concept is a clear cross to the universal ideas of solutionism. You understand? Universal ideas of solutionism. Sometimes you might be stuck, like, okay, at a dilemma, at a junction, you just need to do one or two things. Play chess for a while. Because of playing chess, giving your brain extra, extra exercise, you might just have a breakthrough. Most inventors, chess coach, you can see great people, politicians, they apply chess. So now, and if you see, these are the kind of things, this developed nation, first world These are the kind of things they actually put cognizance to. That's why they are much more advanced than us. So right now, there's a chess revolution going on right now. We check online, and by the matter of fact, the second most liked picture on the internet is chess related. I hope you're aware, more than 40 million likes on Instagram. That's the photo of Ronaldo and Messi playing chess.
Oh,
yeah,
we've seen that picture. Running around before the World Cup.
So that's actually the second most liked. It's an immortal game that has been existing for more than 1,000 years. So to say, a lot of great people, inventors, and playing. So want Nigerian kids to play chess, perhaps they could become inventors tomorrow. So to say, and also primarily one of the goals of this book is for it to be maximized as an alternative model of education. Some kids are actually, very intelligent, so to say, but they don't have this opportunity to go to these 4 walls of school. Now we want to use chess as another model of education for them. If they, now don't let me put much more, cognizance on talks or theoretical, perspective. Let's take a brief look at what this guy, Tunde Onakoya, is doing in Lagos. He's doing a very great work. I told you something earlier. There's currently a chess revolution in Nigeria. Tunde Onakoya is doing a very great work in Lagos.
Really laurels with just playing chess.
Not under playing chess. What he does goes on the bridge, goes to have some dedicated places, bring up kids, out of school kids. Even kids that are in school are not left out in the process. Teach them how to play chess, and after that, for some months, he actually set up, ICT center, and some of them are excelling. Some of them are even representing Nigeria outside the country. We have more than 200 million, citizens. It's quite possible for us to have 1 or 2 grandmasters. We don't really have.
Okay, just before you go further, right, we're actually about to wrap up with this discussion, but then you talked about, Grandmaster not even being, the highest title when it comes to chess. And
just champion.
How many champions do we have in the world?
I can't actually keep this figure. But right now, number one, the highest rated chess player in the world is Magnus Carlsen. Most respect to him. I think last time I checked, was rated more than 2,700 ELO points. ELO rating, that's the standard rating for chess player. I think it's rating more than 2,700, perhaps 2,800, chess ELO rating.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and we have some other great grandmaster, but in Africa we have few grandmaster. Nigeria, I don't think we have any grandmaster. We're a country of more than 200 million people. Are you not telling me that we don't have intellectually inclined people that can become grandmaster?
Of course, we
do. So we want to bring those talents out. Localization of this chess knowledge is actually one of the pathways to actualize this long-term goal. That's a strategy on its own. Going back to the topic of this discussion.
Because of our interest for chess, we could go on and on talking about chess.
Okay.
And the conversation would never end. But it's been wonderful having you on the show, Mr. Oluwaseun. All right. Thank you so much for being on the show. We hope to have you some other time where we go, extensively on how chess works for our minds and also decision making.
Okay, all right then. Thanks. Nice to have you.
All right, thank you so much for coming.
All right, thanks.
All right, we'll be back after this break for more discussion.
documenting the Nigerian story.
part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening.
Now looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130.
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secured are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the
Already, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
That's great. It's good to see you.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now let's move on to our second discussion, and the topic for this particular discussion has to do with cheating. Who does it more, men or women? Many times when we hear of cheating, many are quick to link men to its commonness, and that is really understandable. But the numerous cheating stories that are shared on social media and the internet are posted by more women than men. Now, seeing this, it'll seem that men are breaking hearts and betraying trust more than women. And, the popular belief remains that when women cheat, they have a greater ability to hide the affair than men because they're hardly suspected, while men are usually caught in the act. And, you know, that helped to further fuel the idea that men cheat more than women. Now, this is going to be a very interesting topic. And to discuss this on the show today, we have Amaka Fidelis. She's a relationship coach in the studio with us. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And we also have Sadat Mohammed. He's a media personality. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm
Sadat.
honored to be here. Thank you.
All right. So, but before we dive into the discussion fully, now let's take a look at what some Nigerians have to say about this particular topic.
A woman keeps to her promise. She takes, for example, a woman that did church wedding, she takes that period of that vow as a life thing. I vowed to God, to my husband, I will not cheat. But a man think when he has money, is entitled to flex, to have so many women, and they are moved by what they see. A man can just move now and see a woman and he cannot control himself. But a woman, no matter how she keeps to that promise and she stays fast. So I think a man cheats.
I think it's the female gender that cheats most, you know, because they most time tend to be the ones always at the tail end of the relationship, you know. So I think they try to want to take out their, should I say, their shortcomings of their male counterparts on them, by trying to retaliate and all. So, but most times their friends are also a cause because they listen more to their female friends and you cannot really show off the friends that they keep. So I think that also contributes to the fact that they tend to have varying reasons to fault in a relationship than more reasons to keep it still.
Those days they used to say is the guys, women are too loud. Every time the men do this, men do that, and all that. So, but now that I've grown up, I have been seeing instances that women do it, and people also say that women do it, especially married women. So, but I don't know because I am not married.
All right, welcome back. Now, Sadat and Amaka, thank you just so much for joining us again.
Thank you.
Now, the big question here is, who cheats more, men or women? Let's start with Amaka.
If I were to say, is it generally or African,
Okay, let's stick to Nigeria.
Okay, in Nigeria, because it is quite elaborate when a guy cheats, it seems like a guy cheats more or men cheat more than women because society give them a leeway or pass for men are polygamous, men are this, men are that. So it seems like men cheat more. I would say it seems like men cheat more. In my own opinion, men cheat more because cheating is not just having intercourse with someone. Cheating could be having the idea of wanting to have intercourse with someone, and cheating could be the little text messages, the little fun without your partner. So I think that men tend to want to do those things than the women tend to want to do those things. That's one way. But intercourse-wise, I particularly would say that women, I would say in Africa, because of the culture in Africa, women are so much more boxed in. So the tendencies for a woman to cheat and be in the cheating is pretty lower than when the man, because the men are not, they don't have the consequences that comes with cheating in African society. So the tendencies for a woman to successfully cheat in Africa is quite lower than the men who cheat.
Why do you say in Africa though?
Okay, because we've got culture, we've got society, we've got community. So now the culture in Africa, it's a no-no, like a particularly taboo for an African woman who is already in an official relationship to be found. In fact, even if you're not in a relationship, to be found with someone at all, it's a no-no. Then we've got society, like I promise you, someone is going to see you somewhere. And then we've got community, like people are going to talk about it. So all of these consequences holds a woman to accountability, much less than it holds a man to accountability. So the tendency for a man to want to do these things because there are no accountability or because there's nothing holding them down to pay for what they've done, then the tendencies are going to be higher for a man to cheat than a woman to cheat to begin with.
So Sadat, do you agree with Amaka on this one?
To an extent, yes, she's correct on some of the points. Basically, a lot of men hardly ever hide it. And due to the concept, like she said, the aspect of polygamy, it's open to Africans in knowing that, yeah, a man is this, a man is that, so it's blah, blah, blah. But on my own end, I wouldn't say there's more. I try to look at it at a level of balance, because if a man is going to cheat by default, it's with a woman. It's an equal ground. If I say a man cheats more, it's because the men are usually more direct to approaching. They demand for intercourse compared to more women. There's hardly ever a time that you'd see a woman walk up to a guy and say, I would like to have this with you. It's usually the guys, either in their car, either with a phone call, blah, blah, blah. But you see, what I would say also the women is more is because they're so discreet. Women is so discreet that you can't find out. It's even so difficult that she can even bring someone to the house and claim that it's a cousin. And you're not going to do anything about it because that's a cousin. That's literally a cousin, as should make it seem. So every time we look at it from that perspective, we do say it's the men. But when we look at it from the aspect of emotional attachment, women have it more. And for a woman to actually accept to give her body out to another man, it does state that she must have had something emotional with this person. She must have accepted to a particular level that I want to do this. Or she's looking for revenge towards maybe what the husband has done or maybe what the boyfriend did. And once they get there, that's where the problem of the woman is. Once they get in there, some women, when they get there, it's hard to let go. It's usually hard to let go, no matter how bad the situation might be. It comes from a psychological issue, and these days when we're having westernization coming into Nigeria as well, everyone is open-minded. They call them woke society. So everyone wants to be woke. Feel free. I mean, these days we hear women saying, how can a man marry 4 wives? Why can't a woman marry 4 husbands? And you find now that there's a husband for the groceries, there's a husband for taking me to work, there's a husband for putting me to sleep, then there's a husband that I meet in hotel room 101.
Wow. Do you think that's what's playing out right now, since he talked about westernization creeping into the African mentality?
Well, dream however you want to dream, but I promise you, Africa is Africa. So there are things that would be woke society okay, but they are not African okay, I promise you. And then I agree with some of the things you said, but I sort of have an exception to some of the things you said, because...
What are the exceptions?
Oh, it can't be equal. He says it takes a man to cheat with a woman. It takes a woman to cheat with a man, yeah? But you know that, so a man might not have one girl he cheats with because your needs are endless. Your needs are continually going to be endless.
Wow.
There are several women with several different things to offer. There's a woman who discusses with you. There's a woman who gives you stability. There's a woman who has the beautiful body. There's a woman who gives you the discussion you want. So I promise you, every woman gives you a certain need at certain time. That's for men.
So are you saying that, there's no one woman that you can actually find all these qualities in, or are men just not content?
From the little experience I've got so far, yeah, I think that at a point in every man's life, he needs something, a sort of woman or a sort of person. So it could be at the beginning of your life, and then you get you're getting the beginning of your life, your mom. You need nurturing, you need indoctrination, parenting, and all of that. At a point in your life, you need a relationship to make you feel self-worth. And then at a point in your life, you need to be married to make you feel fulfilled. And then at a point in your life, you need someone to give you mental stability. And then at a point in your life, it's all about sexual intercourse and all of that. And then at a point in your life, you need companionship. So at every stage in a man's life, there's something he needs that he might not necessarily be able to work on with what he's got. And this is actually what's playing out in most men's head. At every point in their life, they might not necessarily be able to carry the woman they've got for the long ride along every point in their life. And this has a lot to do with economy, this has a lot to do with your psychology, this has a lot to do with society, this has a lot to do with religion. So it's got a lot to do with the community, and then it's got a lot to do with our culture, as a matter of fact. So can a woman be everything a man wants her to be? Yes. Can a man accept that a woman could be everything he wants her to be? No, he doesn't, because his psychology is not built to be that way. That's the reason why one woman could be with one man all through the journey of her life and not really see another man, because she, at every stage of her life, she makes him what she wants him to be. But at every stage of his life, he thinks that I can pull her for this, or I can pull her from this stage where she is to the next stage where I want to be. So
the factors attached to that, though.
Yes, the factors, it's more or less psychological. Because if a man is building an empire and his wife is all about the home, oh, let's take care of the children, oh, let's do this, oh, let's do that, and not thinking of the business mindset. He sees her from the perspective, oh, she's not doing this. And then there's somebody, a business partner in the office, who's doing exactly what he wants. Now you see, she's not doing what he thinks she should be doing, and someone else, and then he sees her from the perspective of, oh, this person, this is what I want in my life, and forgetting that this was what you wanted in your life. So at every point in a man's life, there's something he wants that he doesn't believe that what he's got can give him. That's always been the norm.
Now, so that, you know, from everything she has said now, men have insatiable wants. And you keep wondering, how do I improve myself so I be the only one for my husband or for that relationship? So is that the case now? Should we try so hard just to please men so they don't cheat?
First off, there's a lack when people, human beings, let's use human beings, I'm not going to use gender for this particular round. Human beings tend to want more. There's always going to be a lack. There's a black hole in the chest. She's correct on the perspective of a man needing something at different stages. Women, however, are usually readily able to transition if, and only if, they're truly emotionally attached to this individual that they call their man.
Okay.
So, one thing I've noticed so far is that there's a lack of proper, and I repeat, proper, clear communication between couples these days. So when I listened to her, there's something that was actually a lack as well, where she said, but I agreed with her to an extent. But you see, where a conversation does not take place to decide on certain factors before you even settle down, this is what you're going to bring into a home, because you did not create the relationship right from the get-go before you got married. And this is why I also blamed arranged marriages, especially, you know, rulers, areas and all that. It causes this lack of disparity between the couples before they even get to know each other. So it's not like a woman has to try hard. I feel there should just be clarity, because even a woman knows her man. A woman knows who exactly she's dating. She knows his financial status. She knows his psyche. She knows his balance sometimes to life. She has a bit of an idea about maybe the type of mindset he has business-wise, you know, standard-wise. It just comes from different perspectives. I'm not saying a woman, some women particularly, because I have to rule the room for possibility right there. So staying with a man for, say, 5 years before you get married, or even 3 years, to an extent, you know exactly what he's looking at. There's a time where maybe we're just not reading in between the lines of what our man is telling us. And then we have this perspective that he wants us to do more. I'm not giving him enough. Maybe that's why he's looking outside. But clearly, what I know from a man's perspective, me personally, once I speak because I speak with clarity. If I say, let's look at this, it's because I'm trying to build this before we get to stage 2 in our lives. So if men are not doing that, it doesn't mean that the African society would say, you're a man, you should take control. No. It doesn't mean a woman cannot step in and say, babe, look, I'm looking at it this way. Can we give it a try? Try to understand the perspective of that man, rather than feeling or believing or expecting that my voice isn't going to be heard, because that's a lot of issues where women come from, that even if I speak, he's not going to listen. Even if I say anything, he's just going to do whatever it is he wants. But there are times when a woman needs to push that man. But whenever a man brings this statement, what we hear from the women is, I'm not your mother. But we're in a relationship.
I ain't your mama.
Well, thank you, Jennifer Lopez. But it's a relationship. Where I lack is where you're supposed to step in to guide me. Where you lack, I step in to push for you as well. And I feel because of that particular black hole, a lot of times people are not ready to just fix it. And these days we have so many divorce rates because people's psyche cannot handle either partner's situations because something new is always popping up.
Well, talking about that black hole, you talked about communication being key. Now, if the man doesn't tell the woman what he wants and she doesn't do the same thing, how are you expected to grow up? I mean, we come from a society where, you know, when you're of age, you're being told to get married, look for someone, settle down. Same goes for the men as well.
Of course.
And then most people go into marriages these days just to, you know, have a family and grow old together. So what they do mostly is they tolerate each other rather than, you know, getting to know each other and, you know, working towards, you know, having a happy life. So how does that work?
So looking at it clearly, a lot of times it's just sad that we have come to a point in our lives these days, and that's why I actually do say westernization as well, because whenever we look outside, we see what people do. I mean, just recently, Kanye West was told to pay Kim Kardashian $200,000, but luckily they fixed everything. Now, you find a Nigerian woman feeling that her value is at top of that table, that yeah, I'm a Kim Kardashian in black skin, great. But can your husband, who you know his finances, struggle with that? Can your husband, who you know is actually having a particular imbalance with you, balance out with what you want? And a lot of times we also have this thing where women say, he should know. I'm sorry, we can't know, we don't read your minds.
So women are expected to read the minds of the man?
This is the thing with society. Women are expected to be soothsayers, they're expected to be psychics, they're expected to be
superhuman.
Nurses, they're expected to be psychologists, they're expected to be doctors, they're expected to be sheikhs, they're expected to be the prayer behind the house, they're expected to be the two-wheel the house runs on, they're expected to be everything else except human. And that is where the problem comes from, because the expectation is be in a relationship in it for being in it, and then be a loving, kind, caring, nursing, nurturing, homely, accommodating, all of those except human. And you know human comes with weakness. And this is the thing. A lot of times, men see women from their mother's pedestal, not from the woman's pedestal. And it's the inadvertent process of indoctrination as a child, because what I had gotten to understand is that parenting is an inadvertent indoctrination of a child. So you're not thinking about it, you're not wanting to indoctrinate the child, but you're actually making the child do this way. And this is going to stick for the rest of their life. So men put the women in relationship with them on their mother's pedestal in relationship now. When they aren't getting their mother's sort of treatment, because your mom knows when you're ill, your mom is your doctor, caregiver, and all of those things, yeah? And then my home upbringing and his home upbringing could be quite different now, yeah? And then he expects me to give him what his mother gives him because his mother knows. I promise you, moms always know. And then I should give him, because this is my first experience at being in a relationship, I should give him exactly what his mother gives him at every point in his life. I might not necessarily be able to do that for a man because I don't know what he wants, except he says it. Now, communication is both ways. I promise you, couples who communicate have little, not completely off, little problems with I cheated or I have gone out there Because so before that happens, because there's a lot of open communication, you might have somehow told her where she lags, and then she would somehow try to fix it, because women we are fixers. We transcend every stages. So you might have told her where you are, and she might have tried to fix it, and you see changes. But when it comes to cheating, yeah, even if you offer yourself up as a living bond sacrifice, there's something you're lagging in that someone is going to fill up for him as a man, yeah? And there's nothing you can do about it.
So, but why do you feel women these days don't really care about hiding it when they cheat?
Because, so, we grew up from a home. We saw our mothers. We saw how, and let's be honest, we saw that they didn't get all the best of the treatments, if we were to be very honest. And then we know what we don't want. And then we've gotten to the stage where I think that we're giving less attention to people's opinion about what a woman should be like, what a woman should dress like, what a woman should feel, what a woman should say, how a woman should express herself. I love the whole thing you said about westernization, and I believe it. But believe me or not, there are times when a woman has to still curtail herself. So I think that this happens because of I don't care about society's judgment, defiance. This is the reason why women don't really care anymore. Like, if he catches me cheating, well, he's done it before. Because before a woman does that, it's been a resolve. Like, she's giving you, she's giving you communication. She's giving you body languages. She's told you. She has told you. She's told you, like, I'm not happy with this. We're not talking. What is happening? Where are we? Women tend to ask these questions. And probably because a man is not at that stage where he wants to discuss relationship in his life now. Oh, like, I'm looking for a job. Why should I be bothered about where we are? We are where we are, you know. We're in a relationship, but you're not giving me the sort of attention I require in a relationship. And then I've mentioned it to you. And then the only thing you can tell me next is probably... we're fine, we're good. To you, we're good. To me, something is lagging. And then I find someone who's all of those things to me. And you tell me that I should, yeah, I love you, but I want these things. Do you understand now? So before a woman goes out of her way to do these things, she must have given several hints that you could take through.
Is it always advisable, you know, oh, I wanted this from you and you didn't give it to me, I saw, because they say the grass is not always greener on the other side. So you need to put in effort to sustain these things when you're in a relationship, and you know, life happens.
The most long-suffering people in relationships are women. I promise you. A man will be done and move on, and a woman is fixated in that particular relationship. So I think that the most long-suffering people who would have worked, put on the work, call, because what happens to men is interest shift. I think that, oh, when we're starting, it's all beautiful, rosy. And I think that every woman will say this. When the relationship is starting, there's this beautifulness, there's this butterfly, there's this roses that happens to you in your head, and your body emits a lot of oxytocin to make you feel good and all that. And then 1 month or 1 year, boom, the guy just suddenly becomes, oh, where we? No longer, hi babe, good morning, or what's happening to you, or have you had something to eat, or oh, your job and this. It just goes off, like it goes off totally. It shuts down. Yeah, it shuts down. And then you're wondering what's happening here. So I think
what should happen at that point? For the men.
For the men, of course.
You're representing the men. If I'm going to look at it from, I agree with her, and if I'm going to look at it from that perspective, see, there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of lack in communication, exactly, and there's a lot of understanding towards partners these days. But if you look at it clearly as well, a woman who would actually speak up usually it's sad that, you know, the type of men they tend to bump into are not really the men who want to give them what it is, and sometimes also the men. And I blame this on probably the way you've lived your life in the past already. Too many connections, too many playabouts, and that's why some men cannot really control themselves even in a marriage, knowing that they're living with one person for the rest of their lives, knowing that they can't see multiple women for the rest of their lives, knowing that I can't go to, you know, partying with my friends again for the rest of my life. Same thing also goes to some women. When they can't hang out with their friends anymore, they want to now start trying to mingle here and there and everything. But I agree with her on that perspective. When everything starts, butterflies, amazing. It's always beautiful. But I feel constantly, when this thing starts to die down, usually couples are supposed to have a sit-down time to discuss what are we lacking. We stopped somewhere. Someone has to initiate the program. But it's sad that a man expects a woman to start this, and a woman expects a man to start this today in today's relationships, rather than just take charge. The two of you are in a society right now that has shifted from our parent stages to our own society, and it's sad that Nigeria has still not accepted that this is a new generation in this society, that we need to start coming up with our own ideas, concepts, and how to deal with situations. Now, like our parents that had it back then, when you'd hear a woman say, you're married, whatever he does to you, accept it. He's your husband.
Patience.
Same thing goes with the men. Whatever your wife does to you, remember she's your wife. She's the one who will make your home. You must tolerate it and forgive her. Bam. These days, what we have is two intelligent beings who know their values and standards and cannot drop anything for less. So if these two couples are not ready to have a proper, clear discussion about, we have stopped. I don't call you babe, come and tell me. Babe, you're not saying babe anymore. You don't tell me good morning, babe. Let it be childish, but let me know that, okay, I stopped somewhere. If you're doing something as well, I'm gonna tell you, babe, I've been coming home for the past 3 days and I haven't seen you cook dinner for me. What's going on? I'm even gonna drag you to the kitchen and let's start cooking dinner. Then I'm gonna leave you again and let's just see what happens. I feel couples are not coming to a common ground these days. They're just looking at what works for them first before they agree with another individual. And that's where it's actually killing completely. That's a killing ground in that house almost every time.
Wow. So do you think that, you know, lots of people are not taking responsibility when it comes to, you know, relationship issues? You know, you talk about men cheating more, women would say men cheat more. And till tomorrow, it still stands that men cheat more because of their insatiable wants, you know. Do you think that that's this place we can strike a balance where we have, you know, things work out in a relationship more?
See, there's always a balance, and it starts off with respecting and understanding your partner, first and foremost. I will not date someone, or I will not be in a relationship with someone clearly without giving an effort to understanding them. In other words, where you're wrong, and I'll tell you. I'm not gonna tolerate it because I'm a man and you expect me to baby you as my woman. No, I'll tell you where you're wrong. And if you're responsible enough to respect me as well, own it up and tell me you're sorry, just like I'll do to you. I feel these days people have this thing whereby they say, as a man, you should do this. I don't know where they got the Constitution from. As a woman, you should do that. For me, I look at things as we're human beings first off. We both have emotions. We both have feelings. It's just that our biological build-up and DNA is actually different and our presence and appearance is actually different. But where I make a wrong move, I have two legs. You can also make that same wrong move. I'm glad P Square sang that song that time. What a man can do, a woman can do so too. So it's clear. Because it's clearly given that we both have mouths, brains, we can communicate. But where the problem begins as well is, who are you going into a relationship with? Why are you in a relationship with this person who doesn't fit your criteria or class? Why are you constantly chasing someone who doesn't give you back what you're looking for at that particular stage if you're trying to build?
So does the heart understand that?
The heart does. What about the body? Yeah, because you can have all of the things I want in a man, but might not have what I want in a man.
That's it.
Yes, you might have all of the things I require for, you know, to have a wonderful relationship, but let me say this biologically. When a woman turns 30, there's a firework in your body. Like your hormones, your libido shoots so much between 30 and 48. Those are your most active days. Those are his running down days. Those are the days he might not be optimal anymore. Late 30s, early 40s, maybe not necessarily optimal. So yes, you can have all of the beautifulness. And then the mistake we make is, oh, a woman is emotionally attached to a guy before she becomes, she starts having sexual intercourse with him. No, of course not.
Okay, maybe not in
Not all
this.
women.
No, not anymore. Not, of course not. No, you don't. Listen, it's biological. It's not. It's got nothing to do. I could love you to death, and I want to satisfy myself, and that's why a woman can. Sorry, I don't know if this is allowed on air, and that's why a woman can make herself have orgasm, you know, and be fine with it. Because do I love my hands? Do I love the toy that's happening there? But of course, so sometimes I love the man, but what about the man? You know, I don't know if yeah.
Right. Well, you know, I wish we actually had more time to discuss.
Oh, you need more time?
It's very interesting. All right, but then thank you so much. This was a very interesting discuss on Daybreak Extra this morning, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. Amaka Fidelis, yes, thank you so much.
A relationship coach.
Yes, a relationship coach and an on-air personality, Sadat Mohammed. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak Extra this morning.
So how does it feel being on the other side?
When you say on the other side?
You're not the one
TV,
asking the
not
question.
radio.
Oh, it's actually nice. It's like when I don't drive and someone is driving me. This feels like I'm just on air. And it's like, hello, hi.
Okay, well, with that, we've come to the end of the show. Thank you so much for, you know, staying glued to your sets from 8 a.m. up until this time. We'll be back again. We'll be back again next week, same time, same station. I'm Dashan Husseina Usman.
And I am Martia Umar.
And stay tuned for My Daily Hustle.